They left 4 children to freeze in the storm, but one cowboy chose to stay. A frontier memory, as told by a man who was there. I have been sitting on this one for a while. Not sure why I'm telling it now. Maybe because the cold's been coming in early this year. Maybe because I'm getting tired of carrying things I haven't said out loud yet. It was the winter of 1887. January, I think. The kind of cold that doesn't announce itself. It just settles in overnight, and the next morning the world is a different place. I was moving a small herd south for a rancher named Dellard. 3 days' ride and good weather. In that weather, it was anybody's guess. The storm hit somewhere on the second afternoon. Not a blizzard, not at first. Just that flat gray sky that presses down low and doesn't move, and then the snow starting, slowing. Steady, the kind that doesn't look like much, until you realize you can't see more than 20 yards in any direction. I came over a rise, and that's when I saw the wagon. It was sitting at an angle off the trail. One wheel dropped into a ditch. Not a bad drop, maybe 1.5 feet. Enough to stop a loaded wagon. Enough to stop an empty one if the horse was already tired. The horse was gone. The traces were cut clean, not broken, cut. Someone had a knife and used it deliberate, cut the horse loose and left. I sat on my mare for a moment and just looked at it. Then I heard something from inside the wagon. Not crying. Quieter than that. More like the sound a person makes when they've been crying for so long, they've gone past it. Most folks hear the beginning of something like this and move on. I understand that. But if you're still here, stay with it. This one took me a long time to understand. I think it'll stay with you too. There were 4 of them inside. The oldest was a girl, maybe 12, 13. She was sitting with her back against a far wall of the wagon, and she had the other 3 arranged around her like she'd planned it. 2 younger boys on either side pressed against her, and a girl no older than 6 sitting across from her with both hands wrapped in what looked like a cut-up flour sack. The oldest one looked at me the way people look at a stranger when they've already learned that strangers don't always mean help. She didn't say anything. I said, "Where's your people?" She looked at me for a long moment. Then she said, "Gone." Just that. Gone. I asked if they were coming back. She didn't answer. She looked at the boys on either side of her, one after the other, like she was checking something. Then she looked back at me. "How long you been in here?" I said, "Since yesterday morning." I did the math on that. The temperature, the wind, the flour sack hands on the little one. "Can you move?" I said. "All of you." She looked at the youngest boy, the one on her left. He hadn't moved since I opened the canvas. Hadn't looked at me either. "Tommy's cold," she said. Quiet. Flat. Like a fact she'd already accepted. I tied the mare and climbed in. The boy's name was Tommy. He was 8 years old, and his fingers were white at the tips. I've seen that before. It don't always end the way you hope. I pulled off my coat and wrapped it around him, and I held his hands between mine, and I rubbed them slow, the way an old trapper showed me once, years back, in different weather, for a different reason. The oldest girl watched me do it. She didn't thank me. She didn't say a word. She just watched my hands, and I think she was deciding something. After a while, she said, "Our father said he was going for help. He took the horse." I didn't say anything to that. "That was yesterday morning," she said again. I kept working on Tommy's hands. "He's not coming back," she said. Not a question. Not quite. I still didn't say anything. Some things a person has to arrive at in their own time. Some things you don't have any business confirming until they're ready to hear it. But I think she already knew. I think she'd known since sometime the night before, when the dark came from the cold, got serious, and the canvas started moving in the wind, and nobody came. Her name was Clara. The boys were Tommy and Will. The small one with the wrapped hens was Bess. I got a fire going about 50 yards from the wagon in a break of rock that cut most of the wind. It wasn't much, but it was enough to stop the shivering, and that's what mattered. Tommy's fingers came back, not all at once, slow, and it hurt him, and he made a sound that I'd rather not remember. But they came back. That's what matters now when I think on it. Clara sat across the fire from me, and I could see her watching it, not the flames, but the space behind them, thinking. Will fell asleep against her shoulder. He was maybe 10. He'd barely spoken since I found. "Are you going to take us somewhere?" Clara asked. "There's a settlement about 4 hours south in good weather," I said. "We'll get there before dark if we move at first light." "What about the cattle?" I looked at her. "You have cattle," she said. "Back up the ridge." She'd noticed that. In the middle of all of it, she'd noticed that and kept it in her head. "The cattle will wait," I said. She nodded, like she was filing that away somewhere. Then she looked at the fire again. After a long time, she said, "He owed money to a man named Reese." I waited. Reese was going to take the land. Papa kept saying he'd find a way. He kept. She stopped. Started again. Quieter. He kept saying that. The fire shifted. A log dropped. "He wasn't a bad man," she said. "He just ran out of ways." I don't know that I believed that entirely. A man who cuts a horse loose and rides off and leaves 4 children in a January storm. I don't know what you call that. Maybe I don't have the right word for it. Maybe there isn't one that covers all of it at once. But I thought about my own father. Things he did when he was desperate. Things I told myself I'd never understand, and then got old enough to understand part way. and wished I hadn't. Some men are built wrong for hard times. It don't excuse what they do, but it explains some of it. We made it to the settlement the next afternoon, not before dark, later than I'd planned. Bess rode in front of me on the mare. Tommy and Will walked beside the horse. Clara walked the whole way herself. I offered her a hand up more than once. She declined more than once. There was a woman in the settlement named Mrs. Aldrin who took them in without being asked twice. She had 2 rooms and 6 of her own, and she looked at those 4 children standing in her doorway and said, "Come inside then." And that was that. I stayed one night, helped with wood, fixed a hinge on Mrs. Aldrin's barn door that had been loose since fall. In the morning, Clara came out to the barn while I was saddling up. She stood in the doorway, just stood there for a moment, and she said, "You lost days on your cattle drive." 2 days, I said. Give or take. Dillard'd be upset. I looked at her, 12, maybe 13 years old, doing the accounting on something that wasn't hers to worry about. "Dillard'd be fine," I said. She nodded, looked at the floor of the barn, then back up. "Will wants to know if you're coming back," she said. I told him probably not, but he wanted me to ask. I thought about that. Tell him probably not, I said. But you never know. She nodded. She didn't look disappointed. She'd already done the math on that, too. She turned to go. Then she stopped. "Mister," she said. "Yeah. Why'd you stay?" I finished with the saddle, checked the cinch. Thought about it. "I don't know," I said. Seemed like the thing to do. "Herds?" She looked at me for a moment, like she was suggesting whether that was enough of an answer. I guess it was. She went back inside. I caught up with the herd 2 days late. Dillard wasn't fine. He was angry. When they've been afraid something went wrong and it turns out something did, just not the thing they were worried about. But the cattle made it south. The money got paid. That winter passed. I heard the following spring that a woman from the settlement had started the paperwork to take Clara and her siblings in proper. Whether it went through, I don't know. I hope it did. I never went back. That's a thing I've thought about over the years, whether I should have. A man can do right in a moment and still leave things unfinished. That's not an excuse. It's just true. I still think about Clara sometimes. The way she walked 4 hours in the snow without asking for help. The way she managed those 3 children through a night she shouldn't have had to manage. She wasn't trying to be strong. She just didn't have another option. That's a different kind of strength. The kind that doesn't know its own name. The fire's going low now. I suppose that's enough for tonight. Winter, 1887, Frontier Narration Series.